Here are 2 true scary stories from Reddit. The links to the stories are in the description below. Enjoy. Number 1. I met this kid at school 3 weeks ago, who I'll call Joey. He had moved here from California and was in the same grade as me. He was new, and I always try to welcome new students and make them feel comfortable. Joey came across as a little weird, but I brushed it off because in a way, isn't everybody a little weird at some point in their life? I showed him around the school and introduced him to some of the other kids and teachers to make him feel more comfortable. Then, almost immediately, he became attached to me and was always by my side. Joey followed me wherever I went, even when I walked across the street to pick up lunch. But honestly, at the time, it didn't bother me, and I figured he would get along with my friend Ethan, so I introduced the two. Sometimes, Joey would tag along when I was with Ethan. Then one time, Ethan came over to me privately during a lunch break. He began telling me that Joey was showing him videos of weird shit, like cats dying and the 2 men one ice pick video. I had casually brushed this off because I always saw Ethan as the weird friend of our group and thought he was just joking around with me. Over the course of 2 weeks since Joey had arrived, I noticed he was following me and Ethan more excessively. It got to the point where he'd follow either one of us to our homes, and sometimes he would just stand outside our houses even after we went in. So finally, one day, I went back outside and told him that my mom said we couldn't hang out anymore. Although he no longer followed us during lunch, he still followed me home. Then I lost it. I had enough. I told him that he was fucking weird and to leave me the fuck alone. Then went back inside. That had made him furious. Then all of a sudden, the crazy asshole actually came to the door and opened it and tried to walk in. When I got him out of the house, I called my mom and explained what just happened. Shortly after, my mom moved me in with my dad and I changed schools. I haven't seen Joey since that time, and he hasn't shown back up at my mother's house. And hopefully he keeps it that way. And I never want to see that real life psycho ever again. Number 2. I attended a university with my girlfriend and our 2 friends, Ivy and Bruce. We were freshmen at the time when this particular incident took place. One day, my girlfriend and I saw Ivy talking with another student while we were headed to our next class. He appeared to be talking to her like they had known each other for years, and when Ivy spotted us and came over, he treated us the same way. I was happy to meet another guy and began talking with him, but Ivy insisted that we had to get to class and we had to go. When we were far enough away from earshot, she told us the guy's name was David and that he had casually walked over and started talking to her. Ivy said while she was waiting for us, David started asking her some weird questions, and when she tried to walk away, he followed her. The next day, Bruce and I ran into David in another class. He saw me and came and sat next to us. He started asking me personal questions about Ivy, and that's when my spider senses started tingling. I told him some fake info about her and tried to change the subject. When class had ended, I quickly grabbed Bruce and left. A few days had passed when Ivy came up and told us that David had added her on Facebook. The creepy thing was, he was sending her messages the entire day. And it wasn't long before he added me and my girlfriend. She immediately blocked him, but I didn't. I wanted to find out his motives, so I added him back. I expected him to flood me with hundreds of messages as he did Ivy, but he only texted me a few times. The thing was, every time he texted, he wanted something from me. Notes from a class, program codes from another class, or just wanted to know my favorite food. It became routine for him to always find us in our shared classes, and now he was even walking with us on our way home from school. This was pretty creepy because he wouldn't say anything to us. He would just walk silently behind us. And at the halfway point, Bruce, my girlfriend, and I would go one way, and Ivy went the other, and he always went with Ivy. Ivy later told us that he would sometimes talk to her and almost got on the same bus as she did, even though he lived somewhere else. In an attempt to get rid of him, Bruce and I convinced him that Bruce and Ivy were in a relationship now, but that just made things even worse. During class, he started to get between us and tried to convince Bruce and Ivy to break up. And the next semester was no different. He somehow had the exact same schedule as we did and was even more persistent to get between us. He picked up the same hobbies as us, played the same games, and so on. Then one day, he upped and disappeared. He was gone for pretty much the whole semester. So fast forward to this October, and guess who appeared back in our lives? And this is when I had the creepiest encounter with David, or anyone else for that matter, in my entire life. It began on the last class of the week. I had my things packed up and planned to go right to the train station after class was over. I received a message from David that read, "Are you in class?" I just ignored it. Then I got another message, but instead of a text, it was a photo. A photo of me sitting in class by the window, taken from the hallway. That's when I froze. I was thinking, how many times has he done this, and to how many people? Then another message came, but I didn't look, and I didn't turn my head to look in the hallway. I knew he was there now, watching me. When class ended, I grabbed my things and got out of there. I avoided the door in the hallway that I thought he would be in and took the stairs. When I got to the next floor down, there he was, standing there, looking right at me. I ignored him and kept heading down. I had made it out of the school when he appeared behind me and began talking. He asked where I was going, and I told him, home. He stared at me with this sinister grin and said he was headed the same way. I had never told him where I lived and knew he couldn't find it on Facebook. I got to the train station and bought a ticket with him right behind me. He didn't buy one himself, but still followed me onto the train. I insisted to him that he didn't need to accompany me, but his reply again was that he was going the same way. I asked why he didn't buy a ticket, and he answered that he'll buy one later. We were now sitting in the train car alone, and he drew the curtains. My heart sank. Whatever he wanted to do to me, he'd do it now. I knew I could possibly beat him in a fight, but I was carrying my bags and couldn't protect myself. He then turned to me, still grinning. I dropped the bags and got ready for anything. I saw that he was digging for something in his pocket, and at that very moment, a girl opened the door to the cab, asking if there was a free spot. David nodded at her, stood up and said calmly, "Bye," and then left. The girl turned and looked at me. I just smiled, picked up my bags and freed a space for her. I haven't seen David since, but did find out that he was stalking some new girl, and I hope that I'll never see him again. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time.